Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Josh, for organizing this. Thank you to the Jewish students and their allies for standing up for themselves here at the University of Toronto. And thank you for saying that enough is enough. My name is Rabbi Jaffit, and I've been the U of T campus rabbi for the past decade. I also spent 5 years here as an undergrad. I can tell you that in all my experience, things here at U of T have never been this bad. Aside from the violence, the vexatious conduct, and the vitriolic hate, when I reflect on what has happened at this institution of higher learning, one word comes to my mind, and that is gaslighting. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines gaslighting as psychological manipulation of a person, usually over an extended period of time, that causes the victim to question the validity of their own thoughts, perception of reality, or memories. Unfortunately, it seems that the entire university has been gaslit by this anti-Israel mob that has infiltrated our campus. Just take a look at the banners hung behind us in the encampment. From the river to the sea, it says, Palestine will be free. Go and speak to them. Hear what they have to say about this statement of theirs. They tell us that it's cultural poetry. That means they're calling for peace in the land and everyone to live together in harmony. That's what they say. And yet on October 7th, exactly what happened, we saw exactly what happens when Palestinian terrorists have their dream come true and exercise their opportunity to free the land of Israel from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea of the Jews. Quite tellingly, when we hear this chanted in Arabic at universities across the country, they're actually using the original war cry of the Arab Liberation Army of 1947, which was later popularized by the PLO arch-terrorist Yasser Arafat. In Arabic, they're saying, Min al-Maya le-al-Maya Palestine Arabiya. From the water to the water, Palestine will be Arabic. They're saying the quiet part out loud, but only in Arabic. This is nothing less than the call for ethnic cleansing of the Jewish people right here on our campus, and no one is doing anything about it. And worse than that, the gaslighting is that if we stand up and we call this out, we are called anti-Palestinian racists. It makes no sense. Enough is enough. You also see banners behind you calling for intifada, some with the upside-down red triangle of Hamas, a Canadian designated terrorist organization advertised freely here on this campus. What does intifada mean? Intifada is an Arabic word for shaking off. As one of my Arabic friends told me, it's a motion that a donkey makes when he's shaking the fly off his back. The giant world, all the Arab countries together are this big, powerful donkey, and the Jews are this tiny fly that's bothering them. Israel has suffered through 2 intifadas already. The first intifada claimed hundreds of lives, mostly by the knives of Palestinian terrorists. The second intifada saw over 1,000 Israelis killed primarily through suicide bombings in places like restaurants and buses. I was in Israel for the second intifada. I don't want it to come here to Canada. This is a threat against my life and the lives of all of us. Bombs are indiscriminate. They kill anybody who gets in their way. And they're calling for intifada right behind you right now. Threatening to bring terrorist violence to the Jewish community here in Toronto should be completely unacceptable. And yet we're told this is merely a call for resistance. This is gaslighting. And this brings us to the big lie on which the entire conflict is predicated. The farcical narrative that the term Palestine is anything more than a Roman imperial designation for the land of Israel, which was adopted by subsequent empires until the 1960s, when the Arab League decided to claim the term for themselves and gaslight the world into believing that the Arabs were in fact indigenous to Israel. It is as ridiculous as Anglo-Canadians claiming to be indigenous to Canada and calling Algonquins and Anishinaabe settler colonialists because they aren't real Canadians. The nation of Israel has lived in the land of Israel for over 3,300 years. Dig down into any corner of the country, and you'll discover multi-thousand-year-old coins and pottery and parchment scrolls and stelae engraved in Hebrew bearing witness to the indigeneity of the Jewish people. History is absolutely clear about this. 3,000 years ago, King David made Jerusalem his capital. 1,900 years ago, the Romans conquered our home, renamed it after our biblical enemy, the long since dead Philistines, an Aegean people of the Mediterranean who tormented the Jews for centuries. It wasn't until the Arabs from Arabia waged war westward in the 7th century that they first began to colonize our homeland. Only in the late 19th century, with the mass return of indigenous Jews, did Arabs from Egypt, Jordan, and Syria start flocking to Israel. And it wasn't until 1964 that the Arab League declared that there was a newly recognized Arab quote-unquote nation called Palestinians, whose land was from the river to the sea, except back in 1964, that did not include the West Bank, that did not include the Gaza Strip, because those were occupied by other Arab countries, Jordan and Egypt at the time. As late as 1956, Ahmed Shukeri, who later became the PLO chairman, said, "It's well known there's no such thing as Palestine. We're just southern Syrians." This was from the first PLO chairman, only 8 years before the PLO began. And yet we're being gaslit to pretend that history never happened, that archaeology is just a lie. We're called anti-Palestinian racists if we don't pretend like the big lie is truth. So let me make this really clear. Telling the nation of Israel that we don't have the right to live on our indigenous homeland is telling us that we have no right to live anywhere. Today, we're telling the University of Toronto, stop gaslighting us. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, full stop.